Is really also a brother found someone's phone. If you are still in the masjid, a Samsung. If your brother still in the masjid, okay, well, we all come back. So, Alhamdulillah, last week we looked at the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the end of the Islam. I'm Hussein, and also looked at his trip to Qatif and some of the events around Qatif. So, where I would like to take us next, following that, is the Isra and Mi'raj. We'll be following the sequence of the book Fiqh Seerah by Sheikh Raihan. And after that, he goes into a discussion around the miracle of the Prophet's night journey, Isra, and the ascension, the Mi'raj. Right? So, just to also mention that there is some debate among scholars, there is some disagreement as to which came first. Was it the Isra and Mi'raj, or there is some disagreement as to when the Isra and the Mi'raj took place. Some scholars would put in the history books first the first contact with people from Medina, and following that the Aqaba pledges, right? But we'll go into the Isra and the Mi'raj for tonight. So as we know, the Isra and the Mi'raj is one of the most miraculous nights in the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of this in the opening ayah of Surah Al-Isra. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حولها لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on this journey from Makkah al-Mukarramah to Bayt al-Maqdis to Masjid al-Aqsa, right? In the course of one night, and from that being the Isra, and from Masjid al-Aqsa to Sidratul Muntaha, to the presence of Allah, as some translators say, right, through the seven heavens. So, when this occurred, some scholars say it happened in the 12th year of prophethood, which is, and they say approximately 12 to 16 months, so a year, just over a year, before the Hijrah to Medina. That is when they say that the Isra and Mi'raj took place, approximately. So the distance also from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa is, I mean, by car, if you're going to drive, Google Maps is going to take you 1,400 kilometers, a 15-hour drive, 16-hour drive from Mecca to Masjid al-Aqsa. So to go there overnight and to come back is nothing short of a miracle, right? And how when we know the Prophet took the buraq, which is a steed, an animal bigger than a mule but smaller than a horse type animal, and it said that one stride, one step that it takes is as fast and as far as your eyes can see. So we can only imagine just exactly how quick that trip must have been. So some of the events that had taken place on this whole journey, right, was that the first one, that Jibril alayhi salam, he removed the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from his chest and washed it with Zamzam, right? And obviously put it back into the chest of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then Jibril alayhi salam, brought two vessels, two cups, if you will, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one with milk in it and one with wine. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, choose which one you want to drink. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the one with milk in it. And Jibril alayhi salam reported to said, you have been guided on al-fitrah, and you have attained al-fitrah. Had you selected wine, your nation would have been misled. Right? And so that is obviously on the dunya just before that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes up into the heavens in the Mi'raj. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm going to go into very brief discussion and mentioning of the Isra and the Mi'raj, because you can say that for Laylatul Qadr, right? But on the first heaven, in the first Sama, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam met Nabi Adam. In the next one, second heaven, Nabi Yahya, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Then in the third heaven, Nabi Yusuf. And in the fourth heaven, Nabi Idris. Then in the fifth heaven, Nabi Harun. Then in the sixth heaven, Nabi Musa. And in the seventh heaven, Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then past Nabi Ibrahim, past the seventh heaven is the Sidratul Muntaha, where the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they say there's only one veil between he sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had discussions and conversations, and got to meet these prophets in the Samawat, in the seven heavens, as he was going through them, right? But one of the gifts, one of the miraculous things, as we know, that was gifted to the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to the Ummah of the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was the Salat, Salat al-Khamsa. Our Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was 50, and as we know that story between our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Initially it was 50, and Nabi Musa told Muhammad, look, the people are weak, insan is lazy, it's going to be very difficult to go back to Allah and renegotiate the terms. Right? And 50, 40, 35, 30, 20, back and forth until he came to Allah. Until he came to 5, and then even still, Nabi Musa said, this is still too much for people. This is still too much for mankind. But anyways, as such, that is now when Salah became fard, when Salah became wajib, when Salah became part of the deen in a structured sense, if you will. Right? And on this journey, the Muhammad also got to see and came to learn of many other things, and was exposed to different things. But these details I won't go into. But to just mention Masjid al-Aqsa for us as Muslims, right? It was our first Qibla. Before the Prophet ﷺ was redirected to make Salah in the direction of the Kaaba, Prophet ﷺ was praying in the direction of Masjid al-Aqsa, right? Because it's the second house of Allah that was built in the dunya. The first one was obviously the Kaaba, and then the second one was the Masjid al-Aqsa. And also in that area, hundreds, if not thousands, of Anbiya and Sahaba also included, or buried in that area, or buried here or in Masjid al-Aqsa. And not only that, but in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Barakna hawlahu. This is a place, Masjid al-Aqsa is a place that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called blessed, called Mubarak called it a piece of the earth that has been blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's the only masjid that is referred to by name directly in the whole Quran. And it's also referred to in the Quran approximately 70 times indirectly. So apart from Mecca having the Kaaba and Medina being the city of our Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the third best place is Masjid al-Aqsa, which is currently under siege. But that's the third best place for us as Muslims, right? Because that is the only place on earth where all the Anbiya prayed at the same time, was reading that Salah by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And there is so much history of the Anbiya surrounding Masjid al-Aqsa. And it should be, something that we should try to connect more with and understand more the history of Masjid al-Aqsa and when it was built and how it was built and how the landscape has changed over the years from the Umayyads and how they changed the buildings and what they added on and what they refurnished or refurbished in the 8th century, and the Ottoman rules and the Byzantines. How did the Romans change? What did the Muslims do when Umar walked and opened the gates? And what about when Salahuddin came and took conquered Jerusalem, Masjid al-Aqsa again? We need to inform ourselves better of Masjid al-Aqsa, especially nowadays, if not more than ever. Because what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Palestine, it's unacceptable. And Masjid al-Aqsa is ours. As Muslims, it's something that belongs to our history. It has been a major part of our history, and it's been a major part of the history of all the Anbiya that came before. Like Nabi Sulaiman, for example. Nabi Isa, alayhi salam, for example. Right? So, inshallah, let's, after tonight, do a little bit of research on Masjid al-Aqsa and how or what we can do to support Masjid al-Aqsa as well. But coming back to the Isra and the Mi'raj. So, the Prophet ﷺ was in a very difficult state. And by that I mean he went through a lot of hardship, coming out of Aam al-Huzn and coming out of the whole city of Ta'if rejecting, and now struggling to give da'wah in the sense that the ways that he can give da'wah are limited without Khadija's help, Abu Talib's help. So all of that gave the Prophet grief and anxiety, and it was very heavy on the shoulders of the Nabi Muhammad. So we can only imagine how great of a gift Salah must have been for the Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, and how relieving that must have felt coming out of that, after going through so much difficulty. And then Surah Al-Shar, Inna ma'al usri yusra. So now after all this usr, after all this difficulty, there's this yusra, and it's the salah. That's 5 times a day where you can connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for us, there's a lesson in that as well. That if we in something difficult, or if we are feeling like the whole world is coming down upon us, Salah is the answer. Salah is the way out of it. Salah is going to grant us a peace. So that, for us, is just one of the things that we can look at to learn from. They also say that during this time as well, Surah Al-Duha and Surah Al-Shar was revealed also to console the Nabi Muhammad, to give him that peace of mind, to remind him that, Ya Muhammad, you have not been abandoned by your Lord, you've not been, you are not lost, you're not, no one has given up on you, your Lord has not given up on you. You're not, left on your own. Your Rabb is still here. That you are not alone, because you have Allah. That after this difficulty will come success, will come easiness. Surah Al-Duha and Surah Shah, they say, was revealed after these difficult periods. So the discussion, however, that I would like to just go into for a little bit tonight is surrounding the Isra and the Mi'raj. It's known by us as Muslims. It's agreed upon by the majority of us Muslims that this journey, that this travel took place in body and spirit. It wasn't just a dream, it wasn't a dream, it was in mind and in spirit. That the Muhammad was conscious on this travel, on this journey. And that's what the majority of us as Muslims believe. Right? And it's one of those miracles. And we can look in the books of Hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, and they both have a very detailed report of this event of the Isra and Mi'raj. And in that report, they said that Isa, when he came into Masjid al-Aqsa, he prayed, and then Jibreel alayhi salam came to him with the Quran and milk, as we mentioned. And then after that, the Mi'raj took place. But this whole event, this whole night, everything about it was a miracle, of course, right? Everything about it was a miracle. Because when the Quraysh guys heard, Muhammad said he went to Masjid al-Aqsa and he came back the same night, they were gathering and were going to make fun of him, or trying to make this an entertaining thing for him. Because how can a man go from Mecca to Aqsa, which is over 1,000 km away, in one night back then? So then the Prophet was given that vision of Jerusalem, of Aqsa, as if he was there to describe it to them, and make them shut up, in a sense, and could give them details that only a few of them knew, a few of them had been there. Because they didn't believe the Prophet when he said he went to Masjid al-Aqsa. But everything about this is miraculous. But what contemporary researchers like to do, and perhaps have been doing for quite some time as a means to attack Islam and to attack Muslims, is that some of these researchers, they are very prone and they're very fond of exaggerating and focusing only on the human aspect of the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They go into so much detail to explain that Muhammad is a man, and of course Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a man. But the way that they do all of that is to remove any supernatural or miraculous nature in that discussion. They try to take away everything from the Nabi being a Nabi and leave it just as him being a man. Right? Which is something that we need to be cognizant of as Muslims. Because if we look at where they're coming with this, or how they came about with this theory, with this idea, we will find that it's essentially the lack of belief to begin with in the creator of miracles. Because if you have a strong iman, if you believe, if your faith is firmly rooted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it's easy to believe that anything is possible. Of course, right? So if you believe in Allah and His Rasul, then it's easy to believe that the Prophet ﷺ went on the Isra and Mi'raj. And there's no doubt about it, because you believe it's part of your iman, right? But what these writers are doing, what these researchers are doing, what the modern enemies of Islam are doing. They are trying to remove that miraculous nature of the Prophet ﷺ being a prophet. And they're focusing on certain qualities, like the Prophet ﷺ's leadership skills, or his war tactics, or his ability to command and administer people and a city and a society. They focus on those things. And they neglect the whole dimension of he being وسلم, a prophet, which is something supernatural, something that is miraculous. Because then they end up calling, or they give this image that the Muhammad وسلم, was a prophet. They say he is the Muhammad the genius, or Muhammad the leader of the Muslims, or Muhammad the savior of the Muslims and Quraysh. Anything. And they remove Muhammad the Prophet and the Messenger. Because to be a Nabi of Allah, to be a Prophet of Allah, to be a Rasul, to get Wahy, to see Jibreel alayhi salam, that is not natural. That falls under supernatural. So these enemies of Islam, they try to reduce the Prophet to just being a man. What happens then is, if you have Muslims believing that, what that leads on to, if you have Muslims only seeing the Prophet as a man, and remove from that the fact that he's a prophet, it opens up a door to a very dangerous belief system. Because then any reverence or respect or honor that you try to give, or anything that you try to explain, it's no longer through the lens of your iman, it's through the lens of your aql. You're going to try to rationalize the irrational. You're going to try to explain something that cannot be explained. You lead on eventually to explain what God is in terms of your understanding as a human being. That is where it could lead to. You're reducing everything about it that makes it miraculous. So anything that is, that you will try to explain away everything that is part of the iman. If you will explain your iman away. And the whole idea behind this attack is to deconstruct the entire deen. Because the only way to deny the existence of the supernatural or the miraculous in the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the only way to do that, to destroy that, would mean to remove prophethood completely from the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. If you remove prophethood, if you remove that very fact, then you're removing the deen itself. Because what is the shahada? أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. If you ignore what Rasul means, you lead into the direction of denying the religion, denying the deen. But this is the approach that some of these Orientalist writers are taking into their discussions about the man Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in their discussions about our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is something that we just need to be aware of, that the name Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a Nabi, is a Rasul first and foremost. And what comes from that, any miracles That can be explained, alhamdulillah. That can't be explained, it's part of our iman. Because if we were to take away from that, we're taking away our iman. And another thing, we have a very, very strong system that we use to protect our source of information in our deen. And that's through isnad, through the sanad, through the system of isnad. Any hadith that is narrated, there's a chain of narrators. There's link. This guy narrated it, and he heard it from this one, and he heard it from that one, and he heard it from that one, and so on, and so on, and so on, until the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Same with the Quran. Any hafiz in Quran, he can tell you where he memorized it from, who his teacher was, and who his teacher's teacher was, and so on and so on and so on until the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all of our information that we have in the deen, from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Hadith, is protected in the system of Isnad, because we can show you who and when and where without a doubt, and we can tell you who that personality was and what they did or what they didn't do, and who they taught and who they learned from. So this whole system of Isnad is one of the ways that we can defend the miraculous nature of the life of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like with Isra and Mi'raj, many Sahaba were there that witnessed the Quraysh coming to attack the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, trying to, prove him wrong. Another example would be the hadith about the water flowing from the fingers of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like when there wasn't a lot of water and it was one of the battles, then the Prophet poured the water in his hands, and Sahaba they took wudu from the water coming from his hands. But it was like over 100 of them took wudu from the water from his hands. And I mean, just if it's just 100 as an example, there's 100 individuals that saw that event, that can narrate it, that narrated it. But moving. So, to conclude on the Isra and the Mi'raj, it is a miraculous event of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, undoubtedly. And as Muslims, we have to also be aware of what the enemies of Islam are saying against these parts of our deen. We have to be aware, otherwise we'll get swept up in the conversation and not know that we'd be denying part of our deen. Same with Masjid al-Aqsa. Oh, it's just Masjid al-Aqsa in Palestine and genocide happening there. But Masjid al-Aqsa isn't important because of what's happening to the Muslims or to the people of Palestine. Masjid al-Aqsa has always been important. It's not important because of aspect of what's happening now. It has always been important. So, all of this, the Isra and the Mi'raj, Salah being mandated and gifted to the Ummah of the Prophet, this is now coming towards the end of the Meccan period. It's coming towards the end of that 13 years in Mecca. It's coming towards the Hijrah. So all of these big things are happening now, just before the Hijrah, just before the Muslims, just before the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrates to Medina, which we'll be covering soon, inshallah. So one of the other things that we'd like to mention tonight, and maybe we can speak again more if time runs out, is the Aqaba pledges. So in the 11th year after Nubuwwah started, in the 11th year of these 13 years of Mecca, there was contact made with some people from Medina. So after Ta'if, you must remember that Muhammad did not stop his mission of giving da'wah. Muhammad continued giving the mission of da'wah to whoever he could around Mecca, in Mecca, outside Mecca. to whatever tribe in and around that he could reach. So in the 11th year, the Prophet ﷺ took the opportunity to invite the pilgrims who had come to Mecca. Because remember, the Kaaba was still a place that people performed something like Hajj every year. Every year, people still came and visited the Kaaba. So the Prophet ﷺ took that opportunity to these people coming outside of Mecca, took this as an opportunity to invite them to Islam. So one night at Aqaba in Mina, with Ali, Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhuma, the Prophet ﷺ met up with a group of these pilgrims that came from Medina, and he invited them to Islam, and they accepted. And there were 6 men from Yathrib, 6 men from Medina. Medina only became known as Medina after the Hijrah. Before that, it was known as Yathrib. It was known as, the name of Medina was Yathrib before the Prophet made Hijrah. So these 6 guys from Yathrib, from Medina, they were from the 2 major tribes that lived in Medina, and that was the Khazraj tribe and the Aus tribe. Medina at the time was also not predominant or not only Arabs. Medina at the time also had many Jewish tribes living in and around Medina. And there's the Jews, the Yahud, they obviously had revelation that another prophet was going to come. But they believed that this prophet, that this Nabi was going to come from one of them, so this was going to be a Jewish prophet, so to say. And obviously they would be using this and throwing it in the face of the Arabs, like, now we're going to get a prophet that's going to come from us, and he's going to set you guys straight, etc. Jews would threaten the Arabs with the coming of this prophet. Little did they know that the Prophet ﷺ would be from amongst the Arabs, not a Jew. So these guys from the tribes of Aus and Khazraj, they were Arab, right? The people that lived in Medina were Arabs. They were happy that the Prophet ﷺ was from them, from the Arabs, because they knew what the Jews were saying, because the Jews were throwing it in their face every day. We are going to get a prophet, and they were threatening the Arabs with this prophet of theirs. So before they even accepted the message of Islam at this meeting, at Aqaba in Mina, these 6 guys were saying to each other, this is the Prophet. This is the guy that the Jews were talking about, but he's from us, he's an Arab like us. We must join him. We must make good and join him. So after they accepted Islam, they're still in this first meeting. They're telling the Prophet, we left our community, we left Medina, because there is no tribe so divided by hatred as they are. They were describing just how much animosity and hatred there was between the members of the tribe. So they made dua also then, that may Allah cement our ties through you, the Prophet. So let us go and invite them to this religion of yours, and if Allah unites them, and no man will be dearer than you. So these 6 guys, not only did they accept Islam, these 4 guys from Khazraj and 2 guys from Aus, not only did they accept Islam, but they also gave da'wah as soon as they returned to Medina. Not only did they give da'wah when they returned to Medina, but they also sincerely wanted their tribes to come together and be a family, be connected and not hate and fight each other all the time. And they made a dua, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered that dua, and that's mentioned in the ayah, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, hold fast to the rope of Allah together, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, do not be divided. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ, and remember this ni'mah that Allah gave you, إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً, when you were enemies to one another, فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُم, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala joined your hearts together. فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا, and because of this ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, they became like brothers again. This is also in reference to There's tribes that through Islam, through the deen, through the deen bonding them, it weighed more than the blood that they shed. And because of these 6 guys, when they went back to Yathrib, Medina, sharing this message, because of them, many people began to accept Islam. And according to some sources say that you couldn't find a house in Medina except that they were talking about the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were curious and enthusiastic to meet who's this Muhammad. So that was in the 11th year. This group of 6 that came. That was the first meeting. In the 12th year, the next year, more or less the same time, the so-called Hajj period, now a group of 12 came, ready to acknowledge and accept the Muhammad as their prophet. So the original 6, 5 of them came again, and there were 7 new ones. And they declared their faith, their iman, they declared their faith in the Muhammad as a prophet, and they said the following: we will not worship anyone but one Allah, we will not steal, neither will we commit adultery, nor kill our children, we will not utter slander, intentionally forging falsehood, and we will not disobey you in any just matter. So when they had made and taken this pledge, the Prophet Muhammad said, he who carries it out, Allah will reward him, and he who neglects anything and is afflicted in this world, it may prove redemption for him in the hereafter. And if the sin remains hidden from the eyes of the men and no grief comes to him, then his affair is with Allah. He may forgive him or he may not. So here the Prophet is responding to them and acknowledging this pledge that they're making, and also reminding them that this is a commitment, this is a pledge, this is a promise that you're making. So he's reminding them that if you stick to it, Allah will reward you. If you break this pledge, if you break this promise, whatever happens is up to Allah. So this is the first pledge at Aqaba. Right? In the 11th year, 6 men came from Medina. It was just a meeting. They went back to Medina. Over the next year, they were giving this da'wah of Islam. And many people in Medina, in Yathrib, was accepting Islam, so they came back. In the 12th year, now 12. 5 of the first 6 and 7 new guys. Now this is when this first pledge happened. The same place, Aqaba, in Mina. Right? So after this first pledge of Aqaba, Mus'ab ibn Umair al-Abdali, he was sent as the first ambassador of Islam. He's the first ambassador for Muslims to Yathrib, to teach them, to give the da'wah, to show them how to make salah, wudu, etc., to teach them about the doctrines of Islam and Iman. Right? And give them some sort of practical guidance. So Mus'ab returned back to Mecca just before that pilgrimage season started again. So now this is in the 13th year. This is now the final year, year 13, that Muhammad is in Mecca. So Mus'ab was there for a year, and he comes back, almost a year, he comes back with this good news. The good news is that Islam has been growing, the da'wah has been working in Medina, and things were looking good. Muslims were growing, people were supporting and loving each other. There was a network that was being built, and it looks like we can all move. The Muslims of Mecca can move to Medina because we will have a stronger, safer place to live there. And it was secure, and there was enough resources there to sustain and to grow Muslims and Islam. So this was the good news that Mus'ab ibn Umayr brought to the Nabi Muhammad less than a year later. So in that same year, in the 13th year, during this pilgrimage season, the first meeting was 6, the next meeting was 12, and now in the 13th year, at the second Aqaba pledge, over 70 converts from Medina came to perform the rituals of this pilgrimage in Mecca. But they also came to meet up with the Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu to pledge their allegiance as well, and to invite him to come stay in Medina. Because you must remember still that Mecca is still controlled by Quraysh. Quraysh know everything, who does what, when they're doing it. They have eyes everywhere, they have men everywhere. They control Mecca. The Muslims are struggling. They are being persecuted, they're being hunted, they're being killed, they're being tortured still in Mecca. So now these Muslims that just accepted Islam in Medina, they came to the Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu not only to pledge their allegiance, but also to invite him to come and move to and stay in Medina. So this group, they arranged to meet, obviously in secret. Otherwise Quraysh would find out and kill all of them. Again, they plan to meet secretly at Aqaba again. This is the second Aqaba pledge, still in Mina. And this, they say, took place during the Tashriq days of Dhul Hijjah, the 11th or 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Same as the last year's meeting place and time. So according to one account, according to one narration, according to Ka'ab bin Malik and Ansari, this group was approximately 73 men and 2 women. The 2 women were Nusayba bint Ka'ab from the Najjar tribe and Asma bint Amr from Bani Salama. And this group of over 70, they came to meet during the middle of the night. They came to meet the Nabi Muhammad during the middle of the night. With the Nabi Muhammad was his uncle Abbas. At that time, however, Abbas was not yet Muslim. He was the uncle of the Nabi Muhammad, so he was with because he was concerned for the safety of the Prophet. And he wanted to make sure that the Ansar, the guys of Medina, were actually going to protect the Prophet. So Abbas then said the following to them: "O you people of the Khazraj," because remember Khazraj was one of the major tribes of Medina. The Arabs used to call the Ansar Khazraj, whether from Khazraj or Aus. So whoever was in Medina, from whatever tribe, they used to call them Ansar, because they helped us. And they also told them to continue: "You all know the position that Muhammad holds among us. We have protected him from our people as much as we could." Isn't Abbas telling them that the Prophet's tribe and family has tried to protect him from the leaders of Quraysh as much as they could? And he's reminding them also that he is honored and respected among his people. He refuses to join any party except you. So if you think you can carry out what you promise while inviting him to your town, and if you can defend him against the enemies, then assume the burden that you have taken. But if you are going to surrender him and betray him after having taken him away with you, you had better leave him now, because he is respected and well defended in his own place. So Abbas is basically telling them, he is one of us. He is one of our family. We have been protecting him all this time. If you're saying that you can protect him, if you're saying you have this ability and the resources that you can ensure his safety, then stick to it and do it. But if you can't, then go now. We just can continue what we're doing, because we can't trust you to protect him. Because they're all, even though he wasn't Muslim, even though many of the extended family of the house was maybe not yet Muslim, they still loved him. Because even before that public announcement, what was he also known as? As-Sadiqul Amin. He was known as the truthful and the trustworthy one. Everyone knew Muhammad as this very nice guy who never lied, who never stole, who never cheated anyone, who was honorable, who respected everyone, very kind, very gentle. They knew Muhammad as this personality, and everybody loved him. So Abbas told him, "Look, and maybe I'm not yet Muslim, I'm not Muslim, but we still love him. We're going to protect him. So if you say that you can, you better stick to it." And then, as we know, they obviously did. So the Ansar, they asked the Prophet regarding the terms of this pledge, because it's a bay'ah. It's a bay'ah that's taking place, right? And the Prophet ﷺ, in brief, said the following, that they listen and obey in all sets of circumstances. That they spend in plenty as well as in scarcity. That if they need to spend for the deen, if they have money, then they give you. If they don't have money, they must still give. Give that sadaqah, give that zakat. That they enjoin good and they forbid evil. They encourage any khair and they try to stop any shar. And he reminded them that in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's service, in serving the deen, that they will fear the disapproval of no one. And the last one is that they defend the name Muhammad sallallahu in case he sallallahu seeks their help. And he said, sallallahu prohibit me from anything you prohibit yourselves, your spouses, and children from. And if you observe all of these things of this pledge, if you agree to these terms, then paradise is in store for you. And then one of the Ansar, his name was Bara bin Ma'rur, al-Bara bin Ma'rur, he grabbed the hand of Muhammad and he said, we swear by Allah who sent you as a prophet in truth, and we will debar you from whatever we debar our wound from. Have confidence in us, O Ya Rasulullah. And by Allah, we are genuine fighters and quite reliable in war. It is a trait passed down to us from our ancestors. Basically, he was saying, yes, we can fight and we can protect you. Because remember, Aus and Khazraj are tribes that have been fighting for generations. So they know how to fight. Because their families have been training to fight as other tribes for years, for generations. So they know how to hunt, they know how to fight in the desert, they know war tactics, they know how to manage an army. And they're good fighters. So everyone that was there agreed to the terms of the pledge. And they were prepared to protect the Prophet at all costs. Right? So after this second bay'ah, the second pledge at Aqaba, Mina, Prophet sent a group of 12 to Yathrib. So first it was Mus'ab bin Umair, was this first teacher, this first ambassador that was sent to go teach the people of Medina, to give da'wah in Medina, Yathrib at the time. It was in the 12th year, in the 12th year after the Wahy started, in the 12th year of Makkah. Now in the 13th year, 12 more people were sent to Yathrib, to Medina, to teach the people, to give da'wah, and to tell them about this pledge, this bay'ah, and the terms of this agreement. And 9 from Khazraj were chosen, and 3 from Aus were chosen. But now, remember, this is a pledge, this is now a promise that the people of Medina are going to protect, they're going to uphold, and to support the Name of Muhammad. So after the second pledge at Aqaba, after the second Aqaba pledge, the preparations for the Hijrah are now starting. The preparations for the Muslims to migrate to Mecca, Muslims of Mecca to migrate to Medina is now starting. And the Muslims that moved from Mecca to Medina, they will later become known as the Muhajirun. Because a Muhajir is someone that goes on a Hijrah. A Muhajir goes on a Hijrah. And the Ansar are the ones that provide Nasr, that provide sort of help or assistance. And that is the people of Medina, because they were helping the people of Mecca that came. So, inshallah, when we go on Hajj one day, then we can actually go and visit this place where this bay'ah took place at Aqaba. There's now a masjid built there. And it's been built and renovated a couple of times throughout history. It's a very small masjid, and the plains of Mina are now developed like crazy. Trains and whatever, going around in tents for like kilometers, and tall buildings for the Jamalat, etc., etc. So, this in the pictures that you'll find, the Bay'ah Masjid is just like a tiny dot compared to the plain of Mina. But it's like a 10-15 minute Uber out of the Haram, 6 kilometers out of the Haram, and it will be in the Bay'a, at the Bay'a Mosque, very close to Aziziyah. So if you maybe Hajj and staying in Aziziyah, it's closer to the Bay'a Masjid, which is a piece of history, you know. One thing that, alhamdulillah, when I went to Umrah, one thing that I wish I had known a bit more was the seerah of the Nabi Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I think that's something everyone wishes when they go on Hajj or Umrah, that if they knew a bit more of the seerah of what happened, when it happened, and when it happened, that when they're in that places, when they're in that place where the bay'ah took place, when in the place where the well of Zamzam was, you know, found, if they're at Badr, and this is where this person died, and this is at Uhud, and this is where this person passed away, was killed in battle. Where, if we know what happened and who was involved, and this is where the Nabi Muhammad walked, I mean, it changes the whole dynamic of the Umrah and the Hajj. And I think this is something that I wish, inshallah, we will all go on Hajj and Umrah again, if we have it. I mean, this is something that I think we will be able to relate to more. Because, as I mentioned before, the seerah of the Nabi Muhammad is something that we do not want to have up in the air as a nice story to tell ourselves and our children. The seerah is not a story, it's not just a fairy tale. The seerah is an example of a way of life. The seerah has many lessons and principles that we can extract and deduce and apply to our own lives. But the only way that we're going to get that is if we engage with it on a constant basis, be it in ta'ala. So we'll head into more discussions around the Bay'ah next week, inshallah. And then pretty soon we'll be discussing the hijrah from Mecca to Medina. May Allah grant us all the tawfiq and understanding and ease all our affairs. And we also make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the people of Cape Town in this weather. Allah grant them safety and warmth and protection from the elements. Allah also grant us the understanding that this is something that we need to also make dua for shukr and hamd for these blessings that we have been able to sit in a nice masjid protected from the wind outside. وآخر دعوانا إن الحمد لله رب العالمين.